how to set up our shot in a way that it looks like looks like something professional, something better, a coherent whole. You know, composition is about taking individual elements and generating a relationship between those elements and creating a whole, you know. So there would be some harmony and order between the lines and the masses of the picture, so everything seems more pleasing to our eyes. So there are a couple of rules. They are not rules, they are guidelines. You can break them, but if you just follow them, you will definitely have a very much professional and pleasing framing and composition for your shot. Rule of thirds, golden ratio, using lines, and so on and so forth. We will talk about them. Rule of thirds. Okay. Imagine that you divide your image into 9 equal parts by 2 horizontal lines and 2 vertical lines. In the intersections of these lines, we have 4 points. These points, there is more tension and energy in these points. So when I set up my shot, we have, you know, I can move my main subject to and locate it around those points, and especially for the eyes. Eyes should be somewhere around these points or the other one, you know, the upper points. So the upper points are a good place to put the eyes of the main character. See, in this image, this guy is around this point, one of our main points, intersection points, and what he thinks of is on the other side. So just by positioning them correctly in the scene, the dynamic of the scene has more energy, and I can create a story inside the shots. So some more samples. We have to, you know, you have to use, if you have a horizon in the end, it's better to use the horizontal line. You put your line of horizon on one of these 2 lines, this one or this one, and it's better to push your characters to the side, to the left side or the right side, so the character would be around the vertical lines. See, in this example, his eyes are around this point. These 2 characters, one is pushed on the right side, the other one is pushed on the left side. So we place our subject off center. We will talk about that. If I put the subject, if I place the subject in the middle, what happens? So it's better to place it off center. So the eye subconsciously starts to move and look around, and, you know, noticing different elements and understanding the environment. It's more visually pleasing than just having the object right in the middle. This is a frame from the game Destiny. You may have played it. See how, you know, it is beautiful, but we don't know why. Well, one of the reasons is that the designer have used 2 horizontal lines, 2 vertical lines. The main character is being pushed to one of the vertical lines. Here is the intersection of the horizontal and vertical line. The logo is here. So by positioning the main things around those points, I see more dynamic, more energy in this shot. A frame from the game Last of Us. Well, let's imagine those lines again. Two horizontal lines, two vertical lines, and I see that this head is around one of them. This head is around the other one. Two characters has been placed off center, and there are lots of leading lines. I will talk about those leading lines. Leading lines are helping the viewer, are guiding the attention of the viewer to the points that you want. Okay, golden ratio. What is golden ratio? You already know Fibonacci squares. You learned that in your school. It's a very simple relationship between numbers. So, what is your number? I may say my number is 3. What is the previous number is 2. 3 comes after 2. Let's add them together. So the result is 5. 5 again plus 3. So 0 plus 1 is 1. 1 plus the previous number. 1 is 2. 2 plus 1, 3. 3 plus 2, 5, and so on and so forth. The result, if I start to just join them together using a line, the result is a very pleasing and uniting line. It's a very pleasing curve. Why it looks so pleasing to our eyes? That's because of the nature. Let's have a look at this one. Zero plus 1 is 1. 1 plus 1, 2. 2 plus... You see, just the numbers have been added together. Very simple. 1, 1 plus 1, 2. 2 plus 1, 3. 3 plus 2, 5. And it goes on. Lots of elements in the nature are following the same pattern. Like a nautilus. And the ratio again, you know, if I use the ratio between the second number and the first number, and I add them together and divide by each other, the number 1.6 blah blah will come, and the equivalent angle is 137.5. So what happens if I create 1 point every time that I rotate around this angle? Sunflower. So sunflower is following the same algorithm to create the sunflower seeds. Now if I simply connect the middle of those lines, this is the pattern of the wing of lots of different insects. Okay, that's why this ratio, this golden ratio, is so pleasing, because it comes from nature. And so lots of animals or plants or even tornado or galaxies, they have a similar ratio in their formation. And also in arts, since long ago, artists were aware of this ratio, so they have used it in their artworks. It helps to unite different elements together. So when you are setting up your scene, why not think about the same golden ratio? Because it helps to unite, to create a movement, a life in your shot. Okay, lines. We can use or try to find lines in our composition. Lines have the power to draw the eye to some specific points in your shot. So we can use vertical lines. So you probably want to use lots of vertical lines in your shot. Vertical lines create dignity, height, grandeur, and strength, because they are dominants. So if you want to create a dominance in your scene, a grandeur in your scene, why not set up your elements in your shot in a way that you use lots of vertical lines. But if you want peacefulness, calmness, it's better to use horizontal lines. Look at this picture. It's a very nice picture because it follows the rule of thirds. See, use 2 horizontal lines and then 2 vertical lines. Right in the intersection, the photographer has positioned the boat, and also the line of horizon is just on one of those lines. That's why, or here, line of horizon is matched with one of those dividing lines that we discussed about in rule of thirds. That's why it is so pleasing. Diagonal lines, they have more force and energy than a normal horizontal or vertical line. So they create more dynamic in the scene. Here in this picture, we have vertical lines, but the diagonal lines are much stronger and they have created some dynamic in the scene. Curved lines. Sometimes you try to find some curved lines in your shots, in your scene. You go and shoot somewhere that there is some curved lines. They create some beauty and charm. And if you just combine 2 curved lines into a S-curve line, they are called lines of beauty. So they are elastic, variable, and you have both charm and strength together. Leading lines. Those are the lines that help you to direct the attention of the viewer to some specific point in your picture. Here, the flowers, the line between flowers is directing our eye to the meal. Here, the lines next to the boat is directing our eye to this building. Okay, or if you remember the same picture, here. See, the leading line is directing our eyes to some specific point. Okay, so rule of thirds, golden ratio, different type of lines, and now depth of field. What is depth of field? Every camera has, who knows what is aperture? 1, 2, what is aperture? There are a couple of blades in your shot, in your lens, that these blades come closer to each other and less light is allowed to reach the sensor. Or you can make this hole larger so more light can reach the sensor. Well, that's how we use the aperture. But the result is, if that hole would be tiny, you will have a large depth of field. And what does it mean? A larger area will be in focus. Grab your pen like that toward me. Okay, look at me. Just look at me. Your pen is blurred. Look at pen. I am blurred. So your eye has already have a depth of field, and it's not, you cannot see everywhere focused. So when there are two muscles around your eye lens, let me show you. Muscles around eye lens. Okay. Look at these two muscles. These two muscles, they push your eye lens. They squash it or stretch it. And that's how your eye is focusing back and forth. So, the same thing we have here, you know. But it's so if you let just a few amount of light reaches your sensor, you will have a greater depth of field. If you just let more light to come in, you will have a shallower depth of light. It is a good technique for what? For isolating a character, a subject, from the environment. So here, the characters are isolated because everywhere else is blurred. But in this movie, Citizen Kane was the first movie they used deep focus. What that means? They used very, closed apertures. And the reason was they wanted to have everything focused. So when you are watching Citizen Kane, everything is in focus, which looks unnatural. Okay, how we can create depth in our composition? First, symmetry. If you remember, we told that it's better we position our main characters to the left or to the right. But sometimes you want to create something weird, a dominance, a dissension, an order. So some directors like Paul Thomas Anderson or Kubrick, you know him, Stanley Kubrick, they like to use symmetrical composition to convey some special meaning. So sometimes you probably will go for symmetry other than asymmetry. In this frame from the game Bloodborne, if you have played, it's a fantastic game. Having the character in the middle and creating some sort of symmetry has created a dominance. Triangles. Jason has talked about it today. So you can have your characters positioned in the shot in a way that they create a triangle. It's a very dynamic way of moving around the attention of the viewer. So when I look at this shot, my eyes tries to find the relationship, the dynamic of the scene. Framing. You can use natural elements as a frame for your shot. So why? Because I want to draw the attention just to something that is happening inside the shot. This is a good example. So the photographer has used a natural frame to concentrate the attention of the viewer just to the middle. Cropping. You are not obliged to show everything every time. So sometimes, look at this eagle. If you crop into its face, there is a more characterized features in this cropped image than this full image. It's okay if you sometimes just zoom in or use some cropped image. Perspective. You can set up your elements in the shot in a way that you create a perspective so that you can create depth, and through that depth you can convey a special meaning you have in mind. You might probably want to convey the meaning of depth and space and time, or here power. Patterns. I love patterns. You have seen the movie Modern Time. In the beginning of the movie, Chaplin uses lots of patterns, repetitive patterns. This is Kuleshov effect. Today discussed about that. It was yesterday, sorry. What was that? What is Kuleshov effect here? Cut between the people and the cattle. So giving the meaning that the people are treated like cattle. So patterns are a very helpful tool to deliver the meaning and the depth. Pattern is the repetition of single elements, so they reinforce depth and meaning. Okay, you have all these tools to make your shot look better. Let me save this.